Hello, everybody. Hello, YouTube. Thank you all for joining me. We will start in just a moment with the Insight Timer live stream. I wanted to test and make sure this was going to work. So today we will be doing the hidden cost of carrying everyone else's expectations. So now I will start. Hello, excuse me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning, Britt. Bright and early. Got some great loud Mexican music driving by. I don't know if any of you can hear that. Let's just wait a moment. Sounds very lively and very loud. Okay. Good morning, Wendy. I am very well. Thank you for asking. Great to see you as always. So we will just give a few minutes for everyone to join in before we dive in. And I might repeat this a little in a few minutes, and as you can see, we are going to be doing we're not going to be doing our weekly card reading right now, which is very different, and I'm doing an experiment because I rescheduled the live stream from the other day, and I thought, let's do it now. Let's try something a little bit different and have that live stream be now. So what we are going to be talking about today is the hidden cost of carrying everyone else's expectations. And I may draw a card, we'll see. But I'm super excited to present this to you, to be with you today. And yeah, love being here with you every weekend and when I'm here with you during the week. Hi, Andrea. Glad you're here. Wonderful, J.E. Thank you for the information about the music. I think usually it's more audible here, behind me on the street. So, hi, Rochelle. Good morning. I hope you had a wonderful vacation. So, if you are new to me, please follow me here on Insight Timer. I am Natalie, spiritual life coach and Reiki master teacher. I've been a teacher here 4.5 years. Which is amazing. And yeah, I love Insight Timer. I love the community. I love all of you. And just grateful to have this app. It's changed my life. I know it's changed many of your lives as well. Yeah, so I want to give just some gratitude to Insight Timer. And if you want to check me out, you can read about me in my profile here. You can give a donation if you would like. I will give the follow button on the screen so you can see that. And click follow, follow if you would like. Let's see. Okay, that's all I've got going on at the moment there. So you can also join my group, Natalie's Healing Circle, and I post updates there, announcements. We can keep in touch. So you can join that here in Insight Timer as well. So today we are going to be talking about the hidden cost of carrying everyone else's expectations. So as we dive in, let's just take a breath together. Breathing in, breathing out. So, many of us carry invisible weights that are like energetic weights in the form of expectations. These expectations can come from family, from culture, from society, from ourselves, from who we thought we had to be, or who we think we have to be able to like be acceptable and show up in the world. So we're going to look at noticing some of these, understanding how they drain our energy, and then how we can start to be able to release these. I've mentioned this before, but has anybody else read the new Elizabeth Gilbert book, All the Way to the River? She has a really powerful story in there. Hold on. Where when her lover, best friend, found out she was dying and had 6 months to live, that just the weight of the world evaporated, and, you know, she decided to do whatever the fuck she wanted because there was no more expectations. Now, it's one thing to like know you have a few months to live and like, oh, I don't care about my bills, or I don't need money. And we can still take a lesson from that and think about, you know, where are we unconsciously or subconsciously just taking on all of these expectations that we don't need to. You know, it could be in the form of who we think we have to continue contact with in our lives. I think that's a big one, you know, family expectations, or even, you know, what roles you play in the world. So I want to give an example. So let me think what example I want to use. And I want to ask you guys, even so far in the conversation, what expectations do you see that you're carrying? If it's other people, if you feel pressure from others, or if it's like expectations you have on yourself. I'll give an example from my own life that's pretty pertinent and, you know, pretty alive in me. You know, I've been a life coach almost 5 years now, and it's just happened behind the scenes. It's happened automatically. I haven't, you know, set out to think this way. It's just occurred. But I have this idea, because of who I am and what I do in the world, that means I need to be showing up a certain way in the world. And it shows up a lot in my interactions just out with people. There are times when I don't want to be social. I don't want to be on. I don't want to talk to people. There's times when I just want to be walking and either listening to my music or listening to a spiritual talk, if that's what I'm doing. And people will want to interact with me, especially here. And so there's a societal expectation, there's a social obligation there. And I have caused myself a lot of suffering inside of myself by thinking, putting pressure on myself, even like masking and feeling like I have to be a certain way, I have to show up a certain way, I have to be friendly, I have to say hi, I have to engage with people. Do you hear all the shoulding that I'm doing? And this just, it happens automatically. And so with this dynamic, it's like it happens, and then I have resistance to the outside, and then I shame myself, and then I make myself wrong. And I think I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't be showing up this way. So there's all this judgment on, on the whole situation. And of course myself. And it's just this expectation that's more coming from me. And so, one of my practices is I do Ho'oponopono. Just out in the world, if I notice anything coming up, a trigger of any kind, I will repeat that prayer because it's a clearing, forgiving, loving prayer. And it's for, myself and others. I also will do a practice of blessing others. So when this happens, or if I'm just on the street and then there's a judgment that comes just randomly, I will then turn it into a blessing, like, bless this person, I wish them well. The thing that wasn't working, though, is that there was still the piece where I was making myself wrong. And so, y'all that are clients know, or if you're not, or if you're just a regular, you hear me talk about the self-gaslighting all the time. So that is what comes up. And so in addition to releasing the self-gaslighting, like, it's okay that I feel this way, it makes sense, totally understandable. What I've started doing is blessing myself, because that was missing. And it's all due to the weight of all of these expectations. So I invite you all to share a word in the chat of where you're at right now with expectations. What are you carrying? Where is that coming from in your own life? And, this is some of the deepest work that we can do as individuals, and the work that I do with my one-on-one coaching clients as well. When we can free ourselves or get help with that, to stop living from duty, stop living from image, and start living from self-trust and authenticity, things shift and change very profoundly. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and you can put your answers in the chat if you want to write them down in some way. But this is we want to dive a bit deeper and do a bit of reflection. So, whose expectations are you carrying right now, consciously or unconsciously? Whose expectations are you carrying right now, consciously or unconsciously? In my example, like I said, I was carrying my own expectations somewhat unconsciously for a while until it really started being front and center. And the next question is, if you think about these expectations that you're carrying, how does it feel in your body when you try to meet them? Like, even just thinking about the dynamic I just shared, like I can feel this, like this tension, this tightness, this constriction in the body. Even though my shoulders, I think they were relaxed, but there was like a tightness in my chest and my heart center, a constriction even in the breath. Hey, Patriot Lady. So the inner critic voice, that's a great awareness. And that's really kind of my example, was that self-judgment, inner critic, self-gaslighter voice. Wendy also feels like having their own expectations, should be farther along with self-compassion. That's exactly the dynamic in what I described, because I'm a life coach, or because I am whatever in recovery, or because my values are kindness and connection and spirituality, that I shouldn't be having this all come up. I should be able to be more compassionate. I know I had a moment the other day where I was struggling deeply with something. I don't even know what, but it was like, oh, here's where I get to validate my emotions, and it's okay that I feel this way. And it was like, I'm not doing it right. Like, it just never ends. So think about these expectations. Think about how it feels in the body. And think about now, how would it feel to set one of those down, even for a moment? So if it's against or about the self, just feel how it would feel just to set that down for a moment. Feel the weight that's released. Yeah, the inner critic, the expectations, the pressure we put on ourselves is full of shoulding. So let's now look at what are the costs, the actual costs of expectations. So when we carry them, like I said, it could be family, culture, society, partners, people, or the voices in our own head. It doesn't just like weigh us down or affect us physically. It drains our life energy. And it might be very subtle because it's ingrained and it's like unconscious. Parts work is so powerful, and I do that in my work with my coaching clients. Inner child work is a part. So it is very powerful to do that work. Yeah, and as it always seems to be, coming from childhood wounds, childhood trauma. Wendy feels restricted instead of connected. That's a powerful image, like constriction, like this. You can't have a connection on either side if there's a constriction, right? So when we open, then there can be a connection. So the first cost is a loss of energy. So how many of you can relate to constantly scanning for approval? And that comes from childhood as well. So we lose our energy. We bleed our energy when we're constantly scanning for approval. We stay tense. So our life force and our energy and our attention turns outward, trying to manage other people's perceptions, rather than having this energy available inward to fuel our own creation and our own creative energy. Great noticing, Patriot Lady. So we're talking about, the cost of the expectations would be the loss of energy. Bleeding our energy out, trying to manage others' expectations or perceptions of us or approval. So the next thing is suppressed authenticity is another cost of carrying everyone else's expectations. Suppressed authenticity. How does that land for you? For me, that hits. And like I said, this perception or this role of this ego identification that I have with who I am, what I do, because they're intertwined so much. I have noticed at times that I have suppressed my authenticity because there's this expectation, oh, well, I'm supposed to have all the answers. I'm supposed to, be this spiritual life coach. Or I'm supposed to be this person with 26 years sober in AA. So that means, I have to, or I should show up a certain way. Yeah. So when we suppress our authenticity, we edit ourselves. How many of you can relate to editing yourself? Saying what's acceptable. It's people pleasing, right? Hiding what's real. And then over time, we forget what we actually want. And then it's like this inner self-betrayal and loss of self-trust and freedom that happens. Amazing, Patriot Lady. I love that. Inner family. Thank you. So the third cost is emotional exhaustion. How many of you feel or have felt emotional exhaustion? And just feel into that. It makes me want to take a breath. It's a tug of war between truth and obligation that breeds anxiety, resentment, guilt, burnout. So it's not being tired from doing too much, it's tired from doing what's not aligned. Hey Felice, welcome. Yeah, totally. Social media is a place where there's a lot of editing going on. Awesome. Oh yeah, so Patriot Lady gave some great tools doing mirror work, talking to ourselves kindly in the mirror, looking deeply into our eyes as we do it. You can even focus on looking in like one eye or the other, and that's like the different parts of the brain. Non-dominant handwriting. So this is a practice I give clients sometimes. You write a question in your regular hand and then you answer it in your non-dominant hand. You can also look at writing with your non-dominant hand as your inner child writing to you, or writing whatever wants to come out. Of course, affirmations, reparenting, that's a lot of also the work we do in my one-on-one coaching. Right. So it's not that we're doing too much, it's we're doing what's out of alignment because of the editing, the suppressing, the loss of energy, like this whole dynamic. So the next one is diminished creativity and purpose. Diminished creativity and purpose. Who can relate to feeling that? It's because when we're trying to manage everything out here, like I said earlier, then there's nothing here inside. There's nothing for us to be creative with. There's no energy in here. Hi, Michael. You're welcome, Felice. So that, quiets our inspiration. You might be productive on the outside, but you don't feel alive on the inside. And that doesn't mean you need to necessarily get a new job or whatever. Because, we need enlightened street sweepers as well. We need enlightened toilet cleaners so we can become enlightened or be spiritual, no matter what we're doing. The next one is shallow belonging. Shallow belonging. So if you do perform enough to meet people's expectations, you may get approval, you may get liked, you may get admiration, but you're not truly seen. It's inauthentic. So it's conditional, and then it's lonely because we're masking. Enlightened toilet cleaners. Thank you, Patriot Lady, for the notes. Yeah, and honestly, y'all, I have noticed this year in myself. I didn't notice it, but I have noticed these things because of this ego attachment to who I believe myself to be and the role that I play. And it's okay. It makes sense. And, I didn't even realize I was doing it until I did. So the next cost is stunted growth. So sometimes growth means we're going to disappoint others. Either, if we're honest, if we need to set a boundary. And when we're ruled by expectations, we don't do that. We stay small. We just seek approval. And people pleasing is not, it's not even about the other person. I want you to hear that. People pleasing is not about the other person. It's about us. We're doing it for us, not them. That was a aha when I realized that. Oh, Patriot Lady, you didn't notice it either. Yeah, I mean, that's like a blind spot is a blind spot. We don't know it's there. That was a blind spot I had. You know, in my coaching, that's part of, you know, the dynamics of coaching is like seeing blind spots and helping others see it. Because it's like that blind spot was kind of ruling me, and I was acting from it, but I didn't even know. And then lastly, the cost of carrying expectations is spiritual disconnection, soul fatigue, losing touch with your own inner guidance that lies beneath all the noise. So we lose touch with our intuition because we're just constantly grasping, performing. So which of those sticks out to you the most? And if you don't remember them all, that's fine. You'll remember the ones that you're meant to. So which one sticks out? Give a word in the chat. So it was loss of energy, suppressed authenticity, emotional exhaustion, diminished creativity and purpose, shallow belonging, stunted growth, and spiritual disconnection. Masking, which is part of all of this. Authenticity. Yes, thank you, Patriot Lady. Suppressing authenticity, Cindy. Little bit of all for Felice. So when we begin to see all this and let go of these patterns, we're coming home to ourself and we're choosing ourself. It's devotion to ourself. The emotional exhaustion from deep wounds from the past triggered in the mind and body, totally. You know, all of this lives in our body until it doesn't, until we release it. And we can, you know, our body is adaptable. We can live with it. And for those of us on this path, like, we're here to wake up and heal and clear that. So if you are called to lead, to create, to live in alignment, to live into your purpose and the deepest, you know, reasons why you feel you're here, you can't afford to pour all this energy into maintaining everyone else's story about who you should be. So freedom begins when you decide, my life belongs to me. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the ancestral clearing work that I do can definitely help with clearing the ancestral part. Thank you. And it's like, you know, we don't want to make ourselves wrong for any of this. We needed it to survive as children. And it's still here in these ways. And it's okay. We're here having this dialogue, having this conversation so that we can wake up and choose differently. And it's not a one and done. It's a process, not an event. It's not an event that like, oh, now I'll never do this again. It's a process. You'll start to wake up when you see it. And freedom begins when you decide your life belongs to you. So let's take a breath. So we're going to do a short visualization. And you know, actually what I'm going to do is draw a couple cards after that. Or maybe I'll do it now. Let's do that first. Let's see what the cards say of what the cost, you know, of carrying these expectations is. What does it do? Let's just see generally like what the cards say. It's a great quote from Janis Joplin. Okay. I'll just take all of these. Okay, so at the bottom of the deck we have the Nine of Swords. So look at her. This is what happens when we are operating from this dynamic of carrying expectations. I call it the nightmare card because she's woken up and she might have insomnia because of a nightmare or because of anxiety or stress, but this is a card of nightmares, stress, anxiety, waking up in the middle of the night. That's why a pillow's there. On the original deck, it's a little different. So, and then we have the Five of Swords. So again, look. When we carry expectations, we're stuck in our head. Totally. That's why I love cards. Now, the thing is that I always point out that I love about this particular deck and card in this deck is you see this freedom figure behind him who has changed this mindset. I mean, we'll just call all of what we're talking about a mindset. This is when we live in the mindset, this is how it looks and feels. And there's freedom here within this. So we can free ourselves from it. So I feel like this is kind of like the waking up, not letting this blind spot, it's not blind anymore now. And we can see, we can free ourselves. And so then we've got, which we got this one last week, the King of Pentacles, Justice, and Eight of Pentacles. So it's like, this is what's possible once you start choosing yourself, you know, stopping doing all of these things. The kings are very confident, they're self-assured, they're wise, they're the King of Pentacles especially is very grounded. I mean, he doesn't give a fuck. Look at him. He doesn't care what anyone thinks. He's gotten his wealth and his riches. because, pentacles are money, by not doing all of this, what we're talking about here. And then we have justice. Hi, Laura, welcome. I feel like in this reading, these cards are saying, like there's a sort of a sword of justice here, with the scales, and you can see the reflection, and it looks like it's like even a different person. It's not even the same person. But I feel like what this is saying is this is about our mindset and our perception, and that we can come back into balance with that, and that we can serve our own justice by coming home to ourselves. And we don't need to wait for somebody else to change. We don't need to wait for these dynamics to be different. We're the ones that gets to serve our own justice for ourselves. Hey, Jeff. Ooh, that's a great interpretation. Thank you. And then lastly, we have the Eight of Pentacles. So this again, this is a card of like self-improvement. And it takes work and practice. Like I said, this is not a one and done. So it's a process, not an event. It's a rewiring. It's a deep rewiring. It's a deep transformation. And in my work with my clients, this is the level we work on. And the thing is, when we do like this inner work, this is a very much a card of like the inner work. Then we get the outer results because it's all connected. So if that speaks to you, I want to offer, for those of you who haven't had a gifted conversation with me before, you've probably heard me mention my visioning process. And we could even look at this dynamic of like, we can look at what is it like now in your life with you carrying all this? What are your specific dynamics? What are your consequences? What are your specific costs? And then, what does the freedom look like? And what would be the thing that would hold you back from doing it? So you can send me a message. I have limited availability on that. So if you feel to do that, send me a message. Underneath we had the Tower, so I just happened to pull that. To show up differently in your life, it's going to be a breakup and a shake-up. Things are going to shake up. Things can't stay the same. So now we will, somebody honking. Now we will do the visualization that I mentioned. So it'll just take a few minutes, and we're going to symbolically release the energetic weight. And while we do this too, I will do a round of ancestral clearing silently around these dynamics and anything in the lineage, that's influencing you today in this aspect. So go ahead and close your eyes. Breathe in peace. Breathe out expectations. Breathe out suppressed authenticity. Breathe in sovereignty. Breathe out masking. And just imagine that you're wearing a large backpack and it's filled with everyone's expectations as well as your own. It might be society, family, community, culture, your own expectations. And just feel the weight of it's totally full. It's heavy, it's binding on your shoulders. And on your next exhale, just take it off. Take it off and set it down. Set it down, let it fall behind you, and then step away, step forward away from it. Inhale deeply. Feel lightness in your body. Feel the relief of those expectations gone off of your body, off out, and the backpack off. And as you breathe in, just think of your own value system. What are the things that you value that are your North Star, that guide your life? The things that are non-negotiables and really important to you, and notice if because of the influence of expectations that you have settled or compromised or tried to fit somewhere that didn't work just to perform or please. And just feel into your inner truth. What would you do if you were free? And what are you going to do now that you are, now that you see this? And just breathe in and out while I do a round of silent ancestral clearing. Clearing for all these dynamics. Take another breath in. And you can open your eyes and share a word in the chat of what that experience was like for you, what came up for you. So the backpack is off. You're free. What is possible now that you're not carrying what's not yours? Hi, Melissa. You felt light and so happy. That's wonderful. So my invitation to you is, what is one thing, one expectation that you are ready to release this week? It might be with somebody else, it might be with yourself. If you care to, share it in the chat. And every time you put an expectation down that's not yours, every time you notice this, you reclaim energy, you reclaim authenticity. So it's not about adding, it's about taking away. Because underneath all the layers in the ego is our true self and our true nature. We can't add to that. Less expectations. So on yourself, for yourself, Laura, sounds like releasing some pressure on yourself. Melissa, work expectations. So what I would invite you to do, Melissa, is take one, maybe the easiest one or the smallest one. One tiny expectation that you can release, you can set a boundary on, you can communicate about, whatever that is. It's not about going into the CEO and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, you can if you're there, and it doesn't have to be that. It can be the micro step. Michael, release emotional exhaustion. Beautiful. And I've done live streams on this before. I even was a podcast guest about this topic. The top 5 regrets of the dying. Number 1, I wish I would have lived a life true to myself than a life that everybody else expected of me. If that hits for you, this is your invitation to start releasing. Where are you not living a life true to yourself, but living a life that others expected or expect of you? I was trapped in that. I was married, had an office job, went to work, same thing every day. And I would still be there if I didn't choose to live a life true to myself. And that sounds really fucking scary. So I want to thank everybody for showing up, for doing this deep work. If this session spoke to you, as I said, if you've never had a gifted session with me before, I'm happy to offer my visioning process with you, where we will deep dive into this and look at where you are and where you want to go, and then what's in the way of you creating it. Wonderful, Shalyn. So you can send me a private message here. You can follow me here, give a donation if this was helpful. I'm double live streaming this on YouTube, so you can follow me there, my Facebook, Instagram, all of that. My website, of course. Woo, got some loud music coming by. Mexican rap. Okay. Wonderful Sunday morning at 9 a.m. music. So stay tuned. I have a couple live streams this week. I have one Tuesday evening in the Western Hemisphere. I have one Thursday that I am going to reschedule, and I'll see where I have opening in my own schedule to do that. And then next Sunday, we will have our weekly card reading and energy healing session. Hi, Kat. Wonderful. Clutter is such a, there's so much within clutter, energetically and physically and symbolically. So that's great. So thank you all for joining. Much love to all of you. Thank you, Wendy. Darlene, for taking some notes. For those of you that are in your Sunday morning, happy Sunday. And let me know too, if you care to, either in a message or in the chat, how having this sort of a live stream topic was for you now, because usually, like I said, we do the card reading, the weekly collective reading, and energy healing. So did you enjoy this? I might change things up. Or maybe I might do it like every other week or something. So great. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, I will go live for sure. But yeah, maybe I will shift when I do the collective reading. Yeah, everything always changes, evolves. So wonderful, Shalyn. And if you are new, please don't forget to give me a follow. Thank you, Kat, Wendy, Felice. Hi, Marcy. Good morning. Great. Thank you all so much. JE, when I move back to Asia, yes. For me, going live on Saturday nights, on my Saturday night, is not, I will not be doing that. And when I go back to Asia, it will be Saturday night for the Western Hemisphere. I am going live Tuesday nights this month. So if nighttime does appeal to you, for those of you that are in the Western Hemisphere, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's the next time I will be live. So you can join me then. And thank you for your question, JE. Thank you so much, and for joining and being a regular part of our community. So sending everybody lots of loving. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and I will see you all soon. Namaste.